Welcome to the program Beyond the Surface. This is where we take an in-depth look at those major stories and major events taking place in Ghana. And one of those major events happening right now is the lead up to the March 2 regional and general elections. And in this program, we have been speaking with a number of presidential candidates for the respective political parties. Today we have with us in studio the presidential candidate of the New Movement Party, Dr. Asha Kissoon. Dr. Kissoon, good day and welcome to the program.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so your party is comprised of young professionals at the leadership level. In fact, before I get to that, let's talk about Dr. Asha Kissoon. For persons who are not too familiar with Dr. Kissoon, talk to us about yourself.
Well, I am a medical doctor by profession, but most of my life I've been passionate about volunteering and helping humanitarian services. So being in a position to help right now, even though it's politics, is not new to me. It's just another level of stepping up and doing what needs to be done. I am the first female Guyanese presidential candidate that came forward for the upcoming elections. So I do stand strong for women empowerment and rights. And basically, well, I'm all for the people. There's no other way to put it.
Okay. Are you a city girl?
My mom is from Maikoni, but I grew up in Georgetown with her. And I spent some of my life traveling. I studied abroad and have been back home for many years now.
And how much connection you have to the grassroots, to the people in the rural communities? Well, let's talk where
Very
you grew up.
connected. I spend all of my weekends volunteering. I can't remember the last time I had a Saturday or Sunday where I do medical outreaches or I simply travel into the villages or areas to deal with my patients or people that need help. Apart from that, as a doctor, I currently work at Sophia Health Center. Persons from all walks of life, the very poor, the rich, the good or the bad, I see them, so I know exactly what is happening on the ground at a grassroots level.
What are some of those common problems that you hear people talk about? They come to the health center and you might have
So,
found yourself counseling persons at time, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. The first thing the general population needs to know when you're a doctor, before a person can come and tell you they have a headache, they're going to tell you their entire family problem, from the very top to their grandmother all the way to their child. So I hear every day what's happening. People don't have enough money. They say because of the economy, the taxes are very high, they don't have jobs, they can't get access to health care that is enough for them, meaning medication is always short in the clinics. They need to buy it, they can't afford to. The pensioners are crying out that they can't live on $20,000+ a month, or even if it's more, they can't survive on it. So the mothers, single mothers and fathers are crying out that they don't have enough support. People with a lot of children in school tell me that they can't afford to provide for the kids going to school every day. The common man working says that he doesn't have enough benefits in work. The doctors cry out that their gratuity was taken away from them. So if we're to list problems, it's a long list.
All right, so we're going to get back to those issues because those are some of the issues you would definitely like to see addressed. Let's talk about the party for 1 second. You did say that you launched your manifesto early last year, in fact, and then the party itself was officially launched after. But zooming into the leadership of the party itself, a decision was made to have young professionals looking at in the leadership realm, doctors more so. Why was that done?
So this came about from what has been happening traditionally in politics. Traditionally, when you think of politics as a young person, it's always older individuals, mostly men, making promises to young people. And this is the truth. This is why we're here. We're always told to wait our turns. We're always told to step back and let the elders do it. And a lot of promises are made to youth, free education, jobs, over and over when elections come around. But nobody actually fulfills those promises over and over again. So we stood up and we said, listen, we had enough. Youth need a voice in Parliament, and that's how the new movement was born. Because we believe that young people could also stand up and represent themselves and make sure that their needs are met.
But even though young people would want to do so, there is another side of it. There's another argument. And in fact, just earlier today, one was saying, listen, even though youths would like to take up certain positions or move to the forefront, you've got to get the seniors alongside them.
Yes, definitely. So we have advisors that are all politically seasoned. They work hand in hand with us every day. We're not just running wild. We take their advice into consideration and we listen. But they, like us, believe that the youth are the future and we should be able to lead. So instead of leading us, they stand side by side us and support us and mentor us.
Who are some of those advisors?
We have Dr. Torin Dorga. He's one of them. I'm sure you guys know about him. He's our main advisor right now. We have a few that choose to remain anonymous for the fear of political victimization, but I'm sure with time everybody will be able to know who they are.
When you look at these advisors, at any point in time, do you also consider their background, where they're coming from, their past?
Yes, and the very sincere truth is, most of them were affiliated with the other governments. But because of the atrocity they saw happening, especially to the young people, they stepped off from the political scene. But we approached them and asked them to help us along the way because of our little experience.
What is the feedback you're getting from young people? You're saying to them, listen, that we want to give you the voice. We want to be a representation for you. And by extension, the others, of course, the more seniors and the entire country. But what are the young people really saying?
The response is amazing. If I tell you how young people react to us, every day my phone goes off. Every half an hour, there's a message from a young person saying they want to join up. When we go into the communities, they accept us, they embrace us. They're so happy that young people are able to stand up for themselves finally.
But do you think that will be transcended to the polls?
It is our hope, but only come March 2nd we'll know sincerely, because I've learned that people could say one thing and do another thing, and that's being mature about it. We can only hope that all the work we're putting in will be fruitful.
For persons who might say, listen, you really don't have a pass for us to look at, for us to examine, for us to judge you on, what would be your response?
Well, many people have said that. But there's also a flip side to it, being the advantage that there's no baggage, there's no political baggage, there's no history of corruption, there's no history of promising anything to the people and not fulfilling. So now the logical thing to do would be to give us a chance to prove that we're not like the old parties. I've said to several people, well, you vote for PPP or you vote for APNU over and over and you're in the same situation, why not try something new?
But then there's another side. We know you know what you're getting, you know what can be expected. But as for you, what we have with you is just what you're telling us.
It's true. It's very true. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So why would you continue to vote for the same parties? They wouldn't do anything different now.
But yet people are going to vote for them. So
It's true.
are we saying
See
then that
that?
that's insanity from a large number of people?
Yes. And more so related to racial voting. It's a real issue in Ghana. I've had one-on-one contact with a lot of people that have said plain and bold to my face, listen, because Jack Doe is an Indian man, I'm going to vote for him. Because President Granger is a black man, I'm going to vote for him. That is insanity. There's no other way to describe that. So in order to take Ghana away from the traditional two-race politics and the animosity and the racial divide, is to let something new have a chance. Because our party is ethnically diverse. So there isn't a specific race in our party. But when you look at it for 54 years, national unity has never been achieved. And as long as we continue with the race-based politics, it could never be fixed.
You said national unity has never been achieved. what do you define as national unity? Because when you look at the 2015 elections, the AP and UFC, they campaign on a platform of national unity, and they keep touting it time and time again. We're government of national unity, all inclusive. But you were saying, no, that has never been achieved.
It's not the case. I give you an example. We were walking in the marketplace yesterday, the market, where people of all races go and shop. And there are Indian people and black people fighting among each other just because it's politics right now. Elections is coming up. People who normally walk together to school and classroom, children, Form 5, Form 3, Form 2, Form 1, are sitting separated right now. And this is the reality of it. My son goes to school and comes home, and here he heard two teachers arguing if they vote for PPP. You know, they're not talking to each other. And my son went up to them and said, I'm voting for TNM. And he's just 7. Imagine that. So the moment something affects your children, you know it's a problem. And can we be real for a second? You have ministers in the current government that publicly said, we're giving jobs to people from our party, and then later apologize for it. Would you call that national unity? You have ministers talking about quote unquote buck people, which I don't support the word. Would you really call that national unity? National unity is truly achieved when we stop seeing color and we start voting on issues and start seeing each other as one people.
All right, I want to turn to the issue of campaigning itself. How much of that you would have been able to achieve, and given that you're not a major player in the political game, and to some regards that would have affected your finances and your ability to, and you're new to campaign, I think, the way you would want to. How was that been?
Financially, we raise our own funds and we try our best where we can. Of course, we don't have taxpayers' dollars to put behind the campaigning. We go, we meet the people in the communities. We use social media as much as possible because back in the days when there wasn't TV or internet, everybody goes out to public meetings. Now everybody prefers to sit home and say, well, okay, I'll look at this thing live on my phone. And we've had a good reach. We use an influencer, that's the guy in his critic. He gives us time and he has thousands of viewers. So we still get our message out there. And the phenomenon of rent in a crowd, where I need to pay buses to take people to villages for meetings, we don't believe in that. Those votes are not assured either. What is important is getting our message out, and social media has been very effective.
Talk to us about those regions that you're contesting in.
So we're contesting region 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10. Simply because we got the most response from those regions. A lot of young people are in the regions, including some of the elders, and they truly support us in saying that Ghana needs something new because the old way is not working.
And in those regions, you're contesting in both the general.
No, just national elections,
just
general.
All right. On this note, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about your manifesto and some of the in-depth plans that you have for the Guyanese people, as long as you're given that opportunity to make representation for them. All right, stick around. We'll be back. And you're back with us on the program Beyond the Surface, and today we're speaking with the presidential candidate of the new movement, Dr. Asha Kissoon. Dr. Kissoon, before we get into your manifesto, let's talk about the plan to join your list with that of a new and united Guyana and the Liberty and Justice Party. That was a move that would have taken some amount of deliberations within the party. And what were some of the grounds that were decided on, thus pushing the decision that was made?
Well, talks have been going on for many months about collating. Ideally, everybody wanted all the new parties to get together and form one large body.
And that would have been a massive force.
That would have been a massive force. However, the main concern was not losing your essence, what we stand for as individual parties.
By the way, but is that can that happen though?
Losing your essence?
Yes, once you come
Yes,
together.
because
Okay.
if you collate, my values are youth and your values are just against youth. Let's use that as an example. I won't pinpoint exact parties. So to have our identity kept, our leadership kept, we put everything as a collaboration. The collaboration was not a difficult decision because we were already in conversation with these parties. There were other parties involved, Change Guyana and the Citizen Initiative. However, they decided to go it alone, which sadly, I know if they had come.
Reason?
Well, TCI did not understand the joiner completely. They said they needed more time. And
Time ran out.
time ran out for them. And Change Guyana, well, Mr. Badal wants everybody to leave their parties and join him.
So then you would have been under
Just,
Change Guyana.
just Change Guyana.
Then that meant there would have been no new movement
no
that's
other
not
party.
there,
So
and then there would have been no Liberty and Justice Party. Okay.
that
So
counts.
that was
work
asking
for
for too
us.
much. You thought?
Exactly.
Okay.
Sadly. But we wish them well on their endeavors going forward. But for us, the collaboration was a good idea. Apart from making history, because it's never been done in Ghana ever, we believe that the three parties that got together were a perfect combination. We have the youth representation and issues that we stand for. ANUG is all about constitutional reform, which we support them in it. And the Liberty and Justice Party, Mr. Schuman, stands up for the rights of his people, which we all support. So when you put the combination together, it really is strength.
But when you look at Change Guyana and you look at TCI, those two assumption would lead one to believe that those two are bigger than the three parties that decided to come
Where
together
did that
itself.
assumption come from? That's not true
So that view out there doesn't exist, is what you're
at
saying.
all.
So you were saying to me that a TNM compared to Change Guyana is a larger force in itself?
Definitely.
How so?
Definitely. The support
Because,
base
go
that
ahead.
we have, the support base that we have, the leaderships that we have. You might not be aware, but before Mr. Badal formed his party, we had a meeting with him. He was thinking about being a supporter. But when he came on board, his ultimatum was that he had to lead it. And we couldn't accept it because it goes against our leadership qualities of youth taking the forefront. We were also against his affiliation with the AFC in the past. Previous affiliation with them. You see, the core of what we stand for is without baggage. Nobody in our party or leadership is any way affiliated with any of the old parties. And that's something we stood strongly for.
We see almost every week there are public endorsements,
Yes.
and we see we see the party going places, and that is known, going to various regions. We see that, and you're saying still that TNM is way bigger
It
than
really is.
Change Ghana.
Our activities are ongoing. Sometimes everything will be put out soon, but even though the public endorsements are coming, if I call my mom or my friends from the hospital to endorse me, does it really stand as solid? Talk about who it is. Change Guyana, when we were in the debate the other night, the presidential debate, sadly they had the worst representation, and that was the consensus of the entire audience.
Okay.
So as much support as they would like to put on that they have, actions speak louder than words.
Then the polls on March 2 is also going to cement
The poll come March
whatever the
2nd
view is,
will show.
that is going to certainly. But all in all, you're saying that the collaboration, it was a good one
It was great.
between for the three small
The
parties to
collaboration
come
has
together.
brought us more recognition and support than when we were going it alone.
But even though you're collaborating, you're still campaigning independently.
Not always.
You're not always.
We go
So I might
together
go.
some places, the regions that we're contesting together, we go together. And the regions where we separate, well, we still go out and support each other, but the collaboration has also brought a unity. We go to the seawall, everybody's on the stage, three parties speaking at once, and people make their decision. To me, that's the best option. That's my personal opinion. If I want to choose who I'm voting for, and they all stand before me, and they put their policies out, it's easy for me to make a decision as a person deciding, well, okay, I agreed with that person and what they said and what I believe in.
All right, so let's turn to your manifesto. Talk to us about that. What are some of the plans you're putting forward? Let's start with the education sector. If you're given the chance to represent the people, what are your plans for the education sector? What's your vision?
In a nutshell, because we can talk all day about
I agree.
education, first of all, it needs to be free. 100% free all the way to tertiary level. More training institutions need to be introduced for the people. As it is currently, everybody leaves the country to go outside. The long-term vision, we have the University of Ghana, we have a few training institutes. The long-term vision would be having more especially with the growing oil and gas industry to train our people.
So then it's safe to say that your vision for education in that regard, speaking of free education, it is similar to the APN UFC because they're also touting free education
It's
from
very
nursery.
similar. The difference is they have promised that before and not delivered it. So if they say it again, well, if somebody promises me something all the time, I'm not going to buy
You're
it.
doing that. How will this be done? What's the mechanism in place to get it out there?
Well,
Because we're hearing that university education is expensive in terms of funding it.
it's true. It's true. Let's be real. Right now, the oil and gas sector has sprung up. The money that is coming from that, we would like it to be put in a Ghana Bank for Development, Industry and Agriculture. When it goes into that bank and the Sovereign Wealth Fund added to that, some funds, a percentage would need to go towards education, and that's going to push the sector. Not just the free education and more training institutes, but modernization of the educational sector in Ghana. We're far behind other countries, so it's something we would be pushing for.
All right, talk to us on agriculture.
Agriculture is our main focus. It comes even before oil and gas industry or anything else. We believe that Guyana itself can be the breadbasket of the Caribbean. What the farmer needs. The farmer needs tax to be taken away from all industrialization, materials, tractors, and all they need for their farming. We need it to be modernized practices, agroponics. They need more training institutions for agriculture.
But then if we take away the taxes from some of these machinery, or basically all of those, that means that the income coming into the country is going
Not
to be
necessarily.
less. How so?
Just for farming, it can be done because that's what's pushing the farmers back. When they have to import something to do their agricultural practices, more especially when we're pushing for modernized practices, so the answer to that would be our Guyana Bank for Industrialization and Agriculture. This is where our farmers can go to get money to do their practices at interest rate as low as 1% or 2%. So everybody now in the industry that would like to go forward has access to funds, and it also brings back the profit by the little interest that is there.
What's the party's position on marijuana and the decriminalization of
We
marijuana?
support it 100%. Our main pushing with agriculture and diversifying it is industrial hemp. Industrial hemp is different from marijuana in that you don't smoke it, of course not, but you use the products from it. It can make thousands of different clothing, rope, whatever it is, thousands of products. The profits from it are what we're pushing for. An acre would give you approximately $6 million. For the common man in Ghana to have access to plant and industrial hemp, it's lifting them out of poverty. It doesn't matter who it is, as long as they have access to doing it, they have their license, they have their land, it would be done.
You quoted some figures there. Has that been verified anywhere here?
Yes, in Colorado.
Also, we're using that model
Yes,
outside.
because
And you're saying that that same, what we see out there,
it's the
is the
markets.
exact thing that can work here in Ghana?
I believe it could even be more because it's the same international markets that we would be pushing for. Before you could introduce something, of course, you need to see where is my market, can I get my product sold? And based on the feasibility studies that we did, that would be the profit given. When it comes to marijuana now, seeing that the rest of the world is already getting on board, we believe in an integration program with 5 to 7 years to start gradually introducing it into our population. We're not just going to say, okay, it's legalized, start smoking. No. Policies need to be put in place. You must be 18 and older. There will be licensed places that are selling it. You can't smoke it in public places to respect the people who are not for it. And in the places that are licensed for you to use it, there will also be restrictions and regulations. But before all of that, it would start from the educational system to let our people start knowing about using it, the medical benefits, and it's a step-by-step process over time.
I want to take you back to the medical field, to healthcare in Ghana. With regard to specialized hospitals in all regions, how will this be made possible
In
with
our
TNM support?
economic regions, we have a model of having 3 economic regions. We already have Demerara, Essequibo, and Berbice, but we're trying to put it out into economic zones. So each zone should have main specialty hospitals where, well, we know as it is right now, you need to fly patients out of the country. There aren't enough specialists. Our country has a brain drain of professionals right now because the salaries are terrible. But once we're able to fix that, and we have our hospitals here, we believe it can bring medical tourism. People from outside could start flying in to use our facilities, more medical universities in Ghana, more places to practice. So it's a chain reaction and a long-term vision.
The Civil Defense Commission would have rendered assistance to migrants in the past. The TNM's position on this, we've seen Venezuelans coming across the border and the government lending support. Is this a position that you also support?
Let us look at it from a neighbor's point of view. If something happens to me, who's the first person I call? My neighbor. The same way our position on what's happening with immigrants, we should help. The only reason they're here is because their country doesn't have food, doesn't have water, doesn't have employment. We're human beings at the end of the day. Yes, the argument goes that the resources are being put to them instead of our people, but we have such a small population. Our Guyanese population is just a town in America. These people do need our help. The TNM's position is that we should help them medically, job-wise, until they're able to get on their feet. Currently, what's happening, I see these patients, I know them. The women go to the mining towns, they're sexually exploited. The children are exploited, cheap labor, they don't have housing. So the government should be able to help their neighbor because God forbid tomorrow something happens to us. Would we like to be kicked out if we ran to somewhere else?
Right, so we've got to wrap things up. Sorry, time has elapsed from us. Can't believe that we have utilized half an hour already. But in closing, any final thoughts you would like to put out there before you go?
Yes. Given a chance, we'd like to fix the major problems that we have right now. Speaking to the people on the grassroots every day, what they're saying, I don't have enough money. Salaries do need to be increased. Minimum wage should be a minimum of 120,000. Pensioners, you can't tell them I'll double your pension and you put them at 30-something thousand. That needs to be 70,000 minimum. That's how much somebody could take to live on a month. Jobs need to be created. Our party is the only one that's actually pushing for an oil refinery in Ghana. And we believe that that could bring about job creation. We need our people to have jobs. And the healthcare system, so much more can be done, more so about the availability of medication and services. So we'd like our people to know that their main needs, be it healthcare, finances, job creation, will be taken care of if we're given a chance.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Asha Kissoon. She is the presidential candidate of the New Movement Party, and that was her pitch and the party's pitch. For you there, when you go to the polls, hopefully that you will support her party, and that's her pitch, by the way. This is all the time we have to spend with you here on the program. We'll see you back next time. So long, everybody.